Good morning, this is Dave T1963. Most of you who follow my channel know that I posted a couple videos on bare shaft tuning and I got all kinds of comments and PMs, especially from compound shooters. And here's what I'm going to say. There is a night and day difference between shooting a modern day compound bow and bare shafting and shooting a traditional bow bare shafting. And I'm not going to get into all the advantages of a compound bow, but here's what I'll say. You take away the let off on a compound bow. You take away their sights, their range finders, their drop away rest. You take away their release aids. And I guarantee you most compound shooters are going to have problems bare shafting arrows, okay? So there's a night and day difference between shooting a compound and shooting a trad bow. And with a trad bow, it takes far more work, far more consistency out of the archer to produce a consistent shot time after time after time to where you can group at 20 yards, 30 yards, bare shaft arrows, okay? It takes a lot more work. In fact, I would say at 20 yards and plus, the average shooter shooting bare shafts will be lucky to keep all their bare shafts within a 4 to 5 inch circle. And when you do that, it's going to give you some high shots, some low shots, right, left, and some down the middle. It's going to give you very inconsistent results for most archers. Now you get someone like Bobby Worthington or some of the top trad bow shooters out there, and yes, they have perfected their shot, their release, to where they can get consistent groups to where bare shafting actually works for them to help them determine what's the best arrow out of their bow. But here's another point. When you have an arrow that's just cut to center, or most of the trad bows are cut a little bit positive of center, especially when you put your pad on there, you can put a arrow on your string, not draw it back, and sight down the string and put it in the middle of your limbs, and you can see most of your arrows are kicked off a little bit. That forces archer's paradox. So bare shaft tuning can be very challenging out of trad bows, far more challenging than shooting them out of a compound. So here's what I was trying to relay. A lot of trad shooters, myself included, are not so perfect in their shot sequence and release and bow arm pressure and using their back muscles to where they can get consistent results. And what I was trying to say was there are other ways to get about. You can paper tune, you can walk back tune, you can do bare shaft, flet shaft comparisons, you can do broadhead to field point flet shaft comparisons, which is the method I prefer. And you can get your arrows to where they impact straight into the target. Okay, now here's something else I'm going to say. A lot of times, even when you bare shaft tune, whether it's compound or trad bow, you go through the bare shaft tuning process, then you flet your arrows up, and then you put a fixed blade broadhead on the front of that. It can change how well that arrow shoots out of your bow. Everything else being the same. Okay? It can change, especially if you're using tiny fletching on the back. So to me, the best way to tune a bow for hunting purposes is to shoot the exact arrow with the exact weight, the exact inserts, the exact knock, the exact fletching, and the exact broadhead and field point, matching field point out of your bow. This is the arrow that you're going to kill something with. And get those arrows flying not only to where they're impacting straight, which I told you in the other video, the best way to get your arrows to recover out of the paradox and to hit a target straight is to use adequate fletching with a slight offset or helical. That will do it far better than FOC. FOC will do it some, but fletching will do it far better. But once you get your arrows flying straight, That's only half the equation, because you can get an arrow bare shafted flying straight that don't hit exactly where you are looking. And that is what I'm trying to get at. Get the arrow figured out that you're going to shoot for hunting, and then shoot it and tune it for that bow and for your particular shooting style. Not all of us have the same face, different anchor points. You know, if I anchor back here by my ear, you can see how far out of the line that I would have to really kick my head over to get my arrow in my eye aligned. And then you've got another factor. You got to tilt your head the exact same way every time you shoot. I tend to anchor right here with my index finger because that aligns with my arrow better for my face. And I've had eye surgery that kind of screwed up my depth perception, son. This is my dominant eye, but I see better out of my left eye now. So that caused me some challenges. But what I'm getting at is far better to tune your hunting arrow with the broadhead you're shooting and getting that arrow to fly straight and where you're looking. You do that, and it's going to radically improve any little fluctuations you have, inconsistencies in your form, a little bit of gust of wind and stuff like that. You get the arrow flying where you're looking, and I promise you that's going to help you as an instinctive bow hunter shooting a trad bow. That's all I was saying. And it can even work in compounds. If you don't believe that, go watch some of the old Dan Fitzgerald. That guy was shooting short bows. I mean, we're talking 30-something inch compound bows with fingers, with no sights, shooting instinctively, and incredible shot. All right. But he's practiced that a lot, and he's developed that ability. And that's all I was saying in that video is not everyone has the natural hand-eye coordination and ability to become a world-class shooter with trad bow and fingers. And you might struggle with bare shaft tuning. I personally did. A 4-inch group at 20 yards is good for me. 4 to 5-inch group, which will kill anything walking, any big game animal walking in this continent. If you can consistently keep your arrows in a 4 to 5-inch circle. When I first started, you know what I did? I filled up a milk jug with water. That was my target. If I hit that milk jug, I was pretty happy. And I got to where I could keep it in the middle of that milk jug pretty consistently. 20, 30, and even 40 yards back then. But there's many ways to get there, folks. And so for you trad bow hunters, if you're struggling to get your accuracy down and stuff, try something different. Paper tune your bow. You can try bare shafting, or you can try some of the fletch shafting tuning methods that are out there. There's plenty of videos out there to talk about how to do it. And get to where you're not relying on perfect form, perfect release, perfect everything. Because in my experience, in 50-something years of hunting now, you don't have all the perfects lined up while you're hunting. There's going to be inconsistencies and variations in what you encounter while you're hunting. And you want an arrow that you don't have to think about so many things, that you can focus on a spot, and with reasonable form, that arrow flies good from your bow with adequate fletching and hits where you're looking.